the Ford Focus RS in a special Autobahn full speed review. That's today on Autogefühl, the #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and the #1 community to discuss cars. With Thomas, we're going to take a detailed look here with me on the exterior, the spectacular exterior here in Nitrous Blue, my favorite color for the Focus RS, you can imagine. And of course the interior, what are the changes to the basic Focus? And how does it really behave if you compare it to other competitors in this hot hatch segment? And of course the driving review, again as I said, with a special Autobahn part, full speed, unlimited performance of this Focus RS, 350 horsepower. Let's see what we can get out of this car, and I'd say we would start with a little sound and of course everything in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! So is this car even affordable? Yeah, that's the joke of the century, but to the real facts now. 16K is the German starting price of a Ford Focus, a normal version, and 40K is the real price then for the Ford Focus RS. It's of course not cheap at all. It's by the way the same price you pay for a Golf R, but here you get more horsepower. In the front you can see the RS badge, really massive, so massive if you compare it to the normal Ford Focus with this fishbowl grille, the strong lower bumper sits lower the car of course, and my favorite feature are those comp grids here, and those are really different. It's really racing style, like true race car, because they are very thin just to protect it, the radiators, and it's real metal and not that like this big fake plastic stuff we quite often, for example, find with a lot of Audi sports cars. 4m38 or 14'4" is the length, a compact glass car, and the RS comes with 19-inch rims here in the dark trim. Blue brake calipers as a contrast to this nitrous blue color, and really attractive colors are available. Also a matte gray, for example, that also looks pretty stunning. Also a black color, but I would surely go for this one here with the Focus RS. To me it's also a signature color for sure. Strong side poles there, side bumpers, and then this classic Focus layout till here. You see that the taillights are already beginning right there, and then this really massive wing you can see here. It is a fixed massive wing, and I mean you could say it's maybe a little bit overdone, it's too much, but it has 350 horsepower and can be used as a real race car. And if you want this top version, maybe those one will also get a lot of fans then. And we have this massive wing at the top, but at the lower bottom here even more massive, you could say. I mean this big diffuser and those, wow, huge exhaust pipes, and you've already heard them, they really create some fireworks. So that's still the real deal if you want that. car key with an RS logo here, and there's no keyless entry. Then door closing sound is solid, but here this mechanism here on the driver door side, it works pretty well, but on the co-driver side it often gets stuck just like this right here, and then you have to push it, but at least on the driver's side it still works well. So let's get inside, and even here the top, it's not real hard plastic, it's a little bit softened up, so nice here for the build quality. The buttons and stuff is, let's say, okay build quality, not fancy stuff. Good thing is that you pay a lot of money for the RS, but then you really get everything included. Multimedia system, you will soon see, autonomous emergency brake, you already have them in here, and special, of course, the highlight are those seats. Those are the optional ones. Usually you already get Recaro sport seats. They look a little bit different, but they're the same surface. Here, those ones are the optional bucket seats, even more shoulder support, but a little bit less comfort maybe, depends on your body. And you can see the inside is microfiber, we appreciate that. But as far as the info from the prices and everything goes, that the outside is still animal skin, and that doesn't make any sense. They could have just used leather red. Not sure what's the decision here from Ford. Recaro, by the way, always says we just do what the customer is telling us. Maybe they could also have an influence and advising Ford. Then the steering wheel with blue contour stitches working pretty well together with the nitrous blue color on the outside. And in general, you of course still recognize a normal Ford Focus cockpit. And let's get inside. And with the bucket seats, it's a little bit more complicated because you always hit your leg here at the very stiff side. But when you're sitting in here, I mean, I've experienced more uncomfortable sport seats, and for the racetrack it's definitely good because you have good side support here, and also from the legs you really been keeping tight. I would just advise you to stay with the normal seats because those ones also cost optional stuff, and I mean, not sure how many of you will go on the racetrack, let's say every weekend, and then you maybe more profit from those, you know, a little bit softer seats. Seating position is sporty definitely, but not too different from a normal Focus. You can also change the steering wheel here in all 4 directions. Good solution to adjust. Those seats here cannot be adjusted in height, just you can put the length and also the angle of the rear part. That's all you see. There's no system to pump the seat up, for example. And one more thing, those vents here at the side, it's a little bit strange. We've seen in other Fords as well. When you put them up, they open, but at the same time you change the direction. So I would rather prefer a vent that goes on and off at a separate part, and or maybe by turning or stuff, and then you don't change the direction at the same time. It's a little bit strange. You have to live with that. Cockpit overview. It is not a real stringent design. You see here this nice RS Ford Performance. Oh yeah, the great visualization with the front grid I've shown you. Nice feature for sure. In general, the layout is not really straight. You can see it, a lot of different elements. And I would say it's a little bit mixed up from the different forms, a little bit too irritating because you have so many different elements. But again, the build quality here, of course, here as I shown further earlier, softened up plastic, so the quality of materials is stepping up. You see that the Focus is also at the end of the life cycle. Towards the end, everything has been refined further and further. The RS have those special information desk on the top. We'll soon take a deep look for that one, for the performance stuff. Steering wheel again with the contour stitches, you have a good grip, a good size as well. The instruments are split in 4 halves, soon more details to that, but main is still analog, and you got the new Ford Think 3 system. We'll soon take another detailed look. You can scroll in here and out now very easily. It does the job right now. The Think 2 was a really catastrophe, I think, but the 3 does a very good job now. In the lower part, the control unit for the vents and stuff, close to the shifting lever. You can always switch it around, and they decided, due to weight reasons, just to go for the manual gearbox 6-speed, because they say if they would have offered a dual clutch transmission here, it would have added a weight of 30 kilograms, and they want to keep it low weight for the performance. And there we go with the glove box. You can put a lot of stuff in there, also a Ford Performance handbook. Left side RPM, right side speed, and in the lower part you have the water temperature and the fuel status. cooling coolant water, of course. And then in the small display, looks a little bit old-fashioned. Meanwhile, you can check your driving data, also the digital speed. After we played around with the car, the consumption went up to 11 liters, but I'm telling you that also later in the driving review, you can also drive the car below 10 liters on 100 kilometers. It is possible if you drive gently. And this is the, let's call it sports bar for the turbo pressure and the oil pressure and also the oil temperature. Pretty useful stuff and also a nice racing feature. And here we go with the lower part. You can activate it. Again, the temperature control, pretty easy, and you can see it very clearly. Then some space below that, USB port right there, also for your smartphone, for example, 12-volt power supply. And in the lower part, we can deactivate the ESC. If you deactivate it, by the way, you can press it once, then there's a sport mode, that is possible. Here we go. Or activate it again and hold it. And then you hold it, just see it in the center display, then hold. And then you can completely deactivate, and then you can also use the launch control, which is limiting the revs at the startup. But you can also just play around with the clutch yourself. And driving mode, you can switch around different drive modes. I will tell you more about them when we drive the car. Cup holders are right here. You can also adjust them to the size of the beverages. Then it says here armrest could be a little bit more attached. Then you can have another USB and 12-volt power supply right there. Otherwise, just a little room. Here, Think 3, you can zoom in and out and scroll on the map now. I'm really satisfied now with the system. Also here, everything is working quite fast. You can connect your phone via Bluetooth, for example, or also the smartphone mirroring is available. For example, okay. Here, for example, Android Auto, you can activate that one. And you see everything is reacting quite fast, radio and stuff. So different possibilities for your smartphone connections as well, that's good. And also the screen has become bigger now. And then there's also the rear view camera. Let's see if we can activate it in standstill. Yes, that's possible, just by the rear gear. And well, the resolution could be a little bit better maybe, but it does the job and it's good to have it. And again, the Focus RS is almost top trim level. You don't have to go for much optional stuff then. The monitor, the infotainment screen, is by the way not really flickering. That's just on camera. But what else do we have on camera that I can't really sit here properly in the rear? I guess it is a little bit better without the bucket seats, but here it's, well, hardly impossible. So 1.86 m or 6'1" my height. Headroom is okay. I mean, I've also been in compact cars with more headroom, but still this is more crucial here with the knee room. This should be better. Again, another point to go for the standard seats. It might be better with them. Maybe we can test it at a later stage. But the package is not the best with the Ford Focus in general, so there are also cars that score a little bit better in here. Nice, we also have the microfiber on the rear seats here, Isofix covers on the outer seats, but no armrest here, so to keep this very sporty look. And you can only flip the seats from here, cannot really reach them that well from the trunk. You can flip them right there, they don't go that far down, and also the transition here from seats to the trunk is a little bit strange here if you take a look here at this part. The hatch of this hot hatch, let's open it. And standard size of a compact class car. We have seen bigger ones for sure. Tire compressor kit right there, and well, you cannot really flip the seats from here when you have this cover installed. That's definitely a negative point as for the versatility. See the anchor points, the rear anchor points, by the way, for the child fix. So let's take a look at that piece. No hydraulic dampers, Ford Performance, and this means 2.3 liter EcoBoost, 350 horsepower. We know this engine already from the Ford Mustang, and the Mustang has, of course, it's the V8, 5 liter and the V6, but also offers, at least in Europe, with the EcoBoost and with 310 horsepower, but here 350 horsepower and 4.7 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers or 61 miles an hour. That's a second faster than in the Mustang. Of course, here a little bit more tuned with the horsepower. And look at this massive air construction here with the RS logo, and you see the air filter here going right in there. And that looks really like someone who would have made it on a custom basis. And really, really impressive stuff for sure. And that's why, I mean, it's really a fan car as well. Everyone was waiting for the new generation there, and you know, a lot of big stuff there always with Ken Block and the videos. So this has a lot of popularity with this car and a true fan base. Are you one of those? And also put me your comments there right in our comment section. And of course, always has a lot of competitors. We are going to also compare a little bit when we drive the car. But I can for sure say you can already take a look at it at the outside, and you know, from the horsepower figure, this one is surely among the most aggressive ones in this hot hatch segment. Let's go. Okay, welcome to the driving part with the Focus RS. So, who wants? Yeah. Just to say, who wants to race me? First BMW answers already. So that's also about this car in the social interaction. Everyone feels offended a little bit. Everyone says, I want to race Ken Block. He's sitting right in there. Can be funny, but it can also be dangerous. So watch out for that. And a little bit bumpy here on this short motorway part. The first one of today. You will soon also get to an unlimited speed, the German Autobahn. And you feel already that the suspension is super sporty, super stiff. So like you feel everything there is on the road. So you have to be sure about that. You have to like that. It's not a balance as we find in a Golf GTI or in a Golf R, for example. It's more comparable, for example, to a Honda Civic Type R. So no compromise, sporty all the way. Of course, you get great support from suspension here, but just in the sporty way. So no support in the comfortable way, that's for sure. And we have been driving in the normal mode, and already in the normal driving mode, the exhaust gives a notable note. Let's call it that way. And the power is also there instantaneously, so it feels like we would be driving a bigger engine. So, I mean, 2.3 liter of displacement, 350 horsepower. I mean, some say that's overtuned. Yeah, that is maybe true at some point. But then again, you can also bear in mind, do you use this power to the full potential all the time? That's, I think, the critical point. So if you're really giving it the rev meter all the time, then it might really decrease the, the life of the engine, but most of the time you will probably keep it at least at half throttle or something like that, or maybe not turning up the RPMs all the way, like in everyday driving, and then it might also not make such a difference. But definitely due to this power you have, you do have the feeling you would be driving an engine with bigger displacement. And here at the traffic light, you're already right there. Shifting, you got a shorter shifting level than in a normal Focus, so very crisp to shift, short shifting ways, still smooth enough. So I think they found a nice compromise there. and you're driving this car, again, much sportier, much harder than anything else. So among the compact hot hatches, this is definitely probably one of the hottest in the racing sense. Alright, here you feel that the steering wheel is super direct. It's good to steer. It's not too hard, but it gives the resistance that a race driver would expect. When you're parking in and out, that is a little bit hindering, so it doesn't feel that comfortable steering it all the way around. And also you have to be in mind, that's quite often with sports cars, that the angle that the wheels can really turn is a little bit limited. We quite often do that with sports cars for steering and geometric chassis reasons, to keep it also stable on the road. It has to do with the ratios there. But of course, sometimes you have to go for front and back one time more. And here in the city, now city part, soon again unlimited Autobahn part, you feel again, for a normal city ride, the suspension is too rough. So unless you really feel like a massage, always when that happens, it's not really suitable for bumpy roads. So you have to check the roads nearby, or really have to be sure that you do like that getting a little bit shaken around, even when you go to the grocery store or commute to work or whatever. On the other hand, you always have this power reserve, and due to the turbo, that also works in the higher gears. So even, for example, from 50 in third gear, there's instant torque, it's absolutely no problem, even in the normal driving mode. 6-speed manual transmission. I mean, I could even go to the 6th gear, 60 in 6th gear, and I'm hammering the throttle, and there's still something happening. So that's really astonishing. Consumption-wise, by the way, if you playing it safe and not hammering the throttle that much, then you can actually score something below 10 liters. So 9, for example, would be possible. So I, like the last 1 kilometers, I try to save fuel, and it says 9.7 here. So it is possible to bring it below 10. And again, 10 liters / 100 kilometers in MPG. If you Google that, then you get the MPG figure. It's of course not not too much for a 350 horsepower car, but then again, if you have some fun with the car and drive more in the city or hammer the throttle more, it will always be above 10 liters. So then rather 11, 12 is a realistic figure for sure. So that was really saving fuel, and I mean, we will stop doing that quite soon when we have more of the performance. See, also the engine is getting a little bit warmer. That's good to see. The oil temperature always in those middle gauges, because when you really see the oil temperature, you know when your engine is ready to get the real revs. And you shouldn't do it too often that you rev the engine very high with a cold start. Always a little bit warm up, same with humans, that all the fluids can get the real working temperature. Overview, by the way, is somewhat limited. To the rear is good. To the sides, car's relatively flat here with the A-pillar, and to the rear, the windows are not that big, but at least they're quite steep. So overall, I think visibility overview is quite good. Now 70 to 100 in normal mode. Let's go. Plop. That's it. And you might be hearing, after I said plop, the exhaust also answered me plop as well. Really nice. And you can mainly stay in the normal mode here all the time with that vehicle. You can also change the driving mode, and I've tested around already a little bit. The sound is already there in the normal mode, the sport mode, and then there's the racing mode and the drift mode. Those ones are changing the stability control, and When you're in the drift mode, the stability control is drawn that way back that you can even slide out with the rear. And the reason for that is that the maximum torque percentage that gets directed to the rear wheels is 70% then in the drift mode. And that is, together with the drawn back stability control, enough that the car can also drift around. Of course, you do need a racetrack for that. Holger did experience that in this first short review. You've probably also seen here at Autogefühl. Today we do not have a racetrack, but we have something that is quite often even more famous, the German Autobahn with an unlimited speed part, and there we can at least show you the acceleration. If I now, by the way, change to sport mode, let's see if there's any difference in accelerating here. It's a little bit more about the all-wheel drive distribution, but especially when you go with the manual transmission, it doesn't make such a big difference. The race mode also says please only use it on a racetrack. There again, limited stability control. Also says now that the ESP is off. Also the suspension is even a little bit stiffer. And you might be hearing that from the exhaust, got a little bit more action from there. Especially when you leave the throttle. So press it and leave it and plop, plop, plop. You got it from the rear, and that's pretty impressive. And I mean, you have seen the exhaust on the outside. Wow! And now I feel the suspension has been even that is even stiffer now in this race mode. You do really feel that plop. So that's really just recommendable for the racetrack, and I mean, together also with those half bucket seats. This is really a car you can easily go for the racetrack. So one of that cars that got the official plate, number plate, front and the rear, and you can surely very well use on the racetrack. Wow, that's really stiff here. So going back to the normal mode, I mean it's still stiff, but just a little bit difference. You can also see there's a small suspension symbol then in the race mode when it's appearing right there in the front. So great handling with this car, that's for sure. So a lot of fun racing wise. Commands are directly transported onto the road together with the suspension. So this is really a fun machine, and due to the compact size of the car, it's so good to handle. And if you compare it to like those true chassis built sports cars, I'd call them that way, those cars, they're laid out as sports cars, this one here based on just a normal compact car, then I would actually really prefer this one here because it's easier to handle really. Those true sports cars, they look better, I mean more, you know, surely attractive, more of a visual part. Of course that's always, you know, matter of preference. But those cars are based on compact or mid-size cars, they can do a little bit more from a compromise from everyday using and so. But here with this car, again, it's all focused on the racing aspect. You have to be sure about that. And I went off the motorway now. That can accelerate on the motorway to give you the true performance. And let's switch to the sport mode. It's not really racing mode because that should really be reserved for the racetrack or say an empty parking lot and stuff. And I will start in second gear. I would not come to a complete stop. It's not really necessary here. Start at about 30 kilometers, second gear, and then I just hammer all the gears through when we're here in a safe spot. And we'll surely overtake everyone else pretty soon. And 35 now, and let's go. And 200. Show me any other compact car that is able to do that. Maybe an AMG 45, BMW M2 Coupe, something like that. Audi RS3. So just a few cars that are able to handle such a speed. And you see now, turn up the gears really pretty much. And the interesting thing is, the car does want that. You feel it. It wants to be revved high. And in the RPM meter on the left side, that was pretty interesting as well. At the point where the car said, okay, I'm going towards the rev limiter, I really want a higher gear now. Then there was a small RS symbol appearing, small yellow RS symbol, and that was the car, you know, hey, I'm Mr. RS, go for the shift now, Thomas. And that's also helping you, because sometimes you don't really know, should you shift a little bit earlier, should you really go close to the rev limiter, because when you go too early it's not good, when you go too late it's not really the optimum. And here this RS symbol says then that's the way, go for the shift now. That helps a little bit to get used to the car, to the shifting points, and I think I hit those pretty well, at least according to the symbol in this case. So pretty performance, and also the exhaust, really massive for a compact car, that's for sure. And again, good stability, good performance, and also sound insulation wise, I think it scored pretty well. Although, you got the effect there that the exhaust is that loud. You sometimes cannot really measure the real insulation at higher speeds, because you're just rather hearing the sound from the exhaust than the wind noises. So also very interesting effect for sure. So, got the adrenaline driven here now. By the way, I had to concentrate, of course. Maybe rechecked in the video if the turbocharger instrument really went up, because at the moment when you're driving slowly it doesn't do anything. I wonder if it's broken or if it's really working. Drive the way back and have another big acceleration here, and then we'll check again if that's really working. But surely a very interesting performance here from the Ford Focus RS. So we can already say for sure that if you want one of the most sporty car in this very segment here, I think you're very well off with that one. Now we're heading for a U-turn, and there I will also show you again what I meant again by the steering angle, and it's really not easy. Whoa, come on guys. Yeah, so when you're doing a U-turn, you really feel you would be driving a truck. So it's really limited. You have to be aware of that. Really a machine to get some adrenaline. Of course, would be even more adrenaline if we could use a drift mode. But they are really very rare, the areas left, especially in Europe, where you can do some just really fun stuff. Even all the supermarket parking lots, they are all shut off during the night and stuff, and during the day you can't do anything anyway, so hard to find really areas where we can experience the full potential of your car nowadays. Also about safety, of course. Maybe there should be some more areas where you could just play around a little bit with your car, and because it's not only about racing fun, but also to getting to know your car better and have a security feeling. By the way, about the Ford Think 3, while driving the car has been improved really well in comparison to the Ford Think 2. I can also zoom in while driving without being too distracted. So that works because the system is really relatively easy right now, and I can also very well reach the temperature function. It's close to the gear shifter. So we're going for an acceleration again. That's the magic sign here. Starting a little bit faster, I'll drop down to 80 kilometers. Let's go for the racing mode for once, because we're not really in big corners or stuff. See if that makes any difference. Third gear with 80, let's go. it's 190 now, that's enough for this corner. Wow, you see how rough it gets? Oh. It keeps the contact to the corner, so really feel like a little bit being on a new. Whoa! What the hell? I'm doing nothing, by the way. It's just like jump, 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 jump. That's really funny, but of course not really comfortable in your everyday commuting to work. But you see, we're having a lot of fun. Nice. So that's about the Autobahn part for today. We're heading off now. Now we'll apply the brakes pretty hard. Wow, it's also good performance from the brakes, so you can reduce the speed also pretty well. No problem. Nice. So one more shaking it around in the slalom here. Good side support from the seats. Very impressive again. So that's your performance car, guys. And now to our conclusion. This one here, the Ford Focus RS, is surely one of the most aggressive hot hatches there is. Also one of the ones with the most horsepower output. See at the exterior, really an aggressive look and totally fitting in this exterior color. It's not the one, you know, you want to hide from your neighbors. It's one that you want to show off to your neighbors for sure. The interior build quality is also basically fine. With a Ford Sync 3 system, you also got an updated multimedia system. Overall, like how the stuff is set up, everything is pretty easy. You can get along with the car very well. And the biggest point about this car is there's no compromise. This is all about racing. It's more a race car than an everyday driving car. So if you search something for everyday driving with a little bit sporty touch, then probably go for a Focus ST or to one of the competitors. This one here, really, you have seen it like bumping on the road. It's for those who love that feeling, maybe also in everyday driving, but really more, you know, you can take this car to a racetrack at any time. This EcoBoost engine, it is highly trimmed, and I usually prefer then, you know, get a little bit more displacement, considering this horsepower output. So not the biggest fan of this concept overall, also as for the long time durability, but the power is definitely delivered. And also the sound, I mean, they have massive exhaust stuff hanging on the rear there. And I mean, if you want to drift it around, one of the very few cars that has basically this all-wheel drive front plus rear system, but still works to drift around, as the torque can also be massively distributed to the rear part. Of course, I want to hear your feedback. Also, if you're owning a Ford Focus RS, maybe also in the previous generations, tell us all about that in the comment section. And also tune into our very next Autogefühl full review. Thank you very much, guys.